Here we are. We're back. We're back to Movies Down Memory Lane. How you guys doing? Welcome back to Movies Down Memory Lane. I'm Stephen Billings. We got Dan Skip Allen, Andrew Cabral here. This show is the show where three friends come together and talk about the things, the movies that matter the most to us. Let's do it, guys. Dan, how you doing?
Hanging in there. It's been a busy week. About to go on a vacation for a week. And, you know, when I go to South Beach, I'm going to go sit on the beach and watch a bunch of bikini-clad babes walk by and go swimming. No. You know me better than that. I'm going to go see a bunch of movies in Miami.
That I was going to say, that's very
I would say that's very undan of you.
That's very toxic masculine of you.
I know. Goddamn.
Yeah.
That's good.
No,
hey, I will support Dan on this. Going to the beach and watching babes, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sorry.
I hope the weather's nice.
It's probably better than our weather.
Hurricane Melissa down there while I'm down there.
I'll say it was in the 30s here last night, so not exactly beach weather, unless you like it cold and you like nobody being there to bother you. Then it's perfect beach weather up here.
Well, there's something about you people up there in the north that you like going to the lake when it's cold. You just like going by lakes.
People do like to do that because usually lakes are like in the woods and it's secluded and it's nice.
Like here, to do a good fire by the beach.
People like that, but here I live, in the ocean state, so people go to the ocean. But obviously during the winter time, the beaches are closed and you can go there, but there's just not a lot of people, no lifeguards, concessions aren't open, none of that stuff. And it's it's brutally cold. It's near the ocean. The water's already freezing as it is during the summer times, let alone. But we have Movies Down Memory Lane today, and it is Dan's pick. Speaking of cold, this movie starts out in the cold, so that's a nice little connection there.
Yes. Dan, what is that pick? What are we watching today?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about The Empire Strikes Back, the Evil Empire. Most of us.
I don't know what franchise is that part of?
The Evil Empire. We get that with the New York Yankees. They're like the imperial forces from the empire. That's how you got that connection between the Yankees and Darth Vader. Oh, I like that shirt.
I got my shirt too.
Oh, you got your shirt too. Yeah. The only one not wearing Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's your pick. Okay.
But I figure I'll wear blue. I don't know. Maybe that looks like
sure. That really helps.
I don't know. What do you want me to say? No, yeah. Empire Strikes Back. I saw this as a 6-year-old, and as you would imagine, as a 6-year-old, this is a very traumatic experience for me. I have my issues with my father and my love-hate relationship with my father, which my father just passed very, very recently. And this movie brings back a lot of memories of my father being not the greatest father in the world. And when I watch this movie, and this is just one aspect of it that it really bothered me. I mean, walking out of this movie as a child, as a 6-year-old, I'm just crying. I'm crying. That can't be. Darth Vader can't be the father of Luke Skywalker. There's no way this could happen to me. The villain is the father of the hero. No, and that really bothered me as a child. It really affected me. And the darkness in this movie, the bad guys win. Oh my God, the bad guys win. Are we living in a society now where maybe the bad guys are winning? How interesting is that compared to The Empire Strikes Back? Think about that one, folks.
Wait a second. Was that Yoda you just did? I was like, man, he's getting it all in right here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times movies, the ones that last the longest in our minds, tend to have some way of reflecting on the real world. And so that's why they stand the test of time. But yeah, before we get dig into Dan a little deeper about why he likes Empire Strikes Back so much, I guess me and Andrew will give our little ditties. For me, I love Star Wars. I think a lot of kids always love Star Wars of our age. Even now, I think kids now that they're being introduced to Star Wars love Star Wars. And,
Can I say one thing real quick, Stephen, before you? I know I'm interrupting. Stephen and I have had many, not a couple, many conversations about Star Wars since in the time that we have known each other. And this is a topic that we've went around all over the place with him and I. So this is a really one of our favorite topics we've talked about over the years. And sometimes we talk about it so much, we got sick of talking about it.
Why? Mostly because of the new trilogy. Because when the new trilogy came through, stormed through the 2010s, it really, and you know, I was going to get into it. It's, you know, my fandom of Star Wars has lessened. It's nosedived a little bit, and now it doesn't really have it. It's not the fault of like this film tonight that we're talking about. I mean, like I still love I'm preferably I love A New Hope more than I like Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, so I don't blame even the prequel movies, but this new and it ain't even quality. It ain't even honestly quality of movies. It's the fandom of Star Wars that has really made me not like Star Wars as much as I used to. It's so toxic and it's so contradictory and it's so many crybabies. Like people want something new, but they don't want something new. Like they keep saying, like, I want things to be like the old Star Wars, which is literally the contradictory of something new. Like they don't know what they want, and they'll keep crying that everything, unless everybody likes it, then it's not good. But I'll say that Star Wars always been in my life. I had a cousin growing up that was mentally handicapped, and he was obsessed with Star Wars. And that's all. Anytime we visited him, that's all we did was play with Star Wars, watch Star Wars, and so like, it's always been in my life. Always been something that I've loved. I had the VHSs. I had the despecialized, as they call it now, versions on VHS at one point. I don't have them anymore, of course. I wish I had them.
I have them.
Yeah, we'll be storming Andrew's house sometime soon.
I almost brought them for the show today, but I didn't want to show off too much.
It's okay. I do have I am still behind because I only have the Blu-ray collector's edition.
Yeah, I've got mine too.
Yeah.
I forgot to grab mine. I forgot to grab mine off the shelf.
I am still
no Blu-ray, no shirt or hat or anything.
I have them right over there. 4Ks. I got 4Ks of all of them. Right.
Yeah, I'm still behind on getting the 4Ks of them. But like Steven, I still have them as well. But what's interesting, Steven, is your story is very similar to mine. I think probably very similar to a lot of young fans, is that they started out when they were kids getting into Star Wars. That was their introduction. It was the introduction for me, like we just mentioned, the VHS, you know, the what are the special edition cuts? The pre-special edition cut VHS box set that came out around 1995 or so, I want to say. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
That's when I started, and that's when I got them, and that was my introduction to Star Wars. Obviously there was the in-between times between 1983's Return of the Jedi and 1999's Episode 1, where there was no Star Wars in the theater. You know what I mean? There were no new Star Wars movies. It's not like now there were no like TV shows and stuff like that. I mean, they did a lot of that stuff early on when the movies were coming out with like the holiday special, and they had the animated series of Ewoks and animated series of droids. And then they had the Ewok movies that came out in the mid to late 80s. They had stuff like that. But by the time I came around in the late 1980s, that stuff was a little bit behind me. So I had to catch up on all of that. But for me, it was the VHS tapes. And I remember buying them, or my mother bought them. She had some store credit at one of the local stores here, and they had a movie, you know, VHS movie section, because like I said, mid-90s, and they had, you know, all the VHSs in one collection, and we bought them, and I watched them all back to back to back the same day. You know what I mean? Just all the way through the day, and immediately fell in love with Star Wars from that moment on. So I was about, I don't know, I was 8 years old. Yeah, 8 years old all the way up till now. And like I said, when we talked about the Dark Knight, for me, when it comes to movie fandom love, it's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and then Batman. So I've been a big fan of all those three, you know, throughout my entire, you know, young life and adult life. But yeah, Empire Strikes Back was the one. What is interesting is it was kind of my least favorite when I was a kid, because 8-year-old mindset. The bad guys lose, like Dan said. The movie is very
bad guys win.
Yeah, well, the bad guys win. The bad guys win, like Dan said. And it was, I mean, for an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever the case may be, for a kid, you want to see your heroes win all the time. You don't want to see them lose. And for me, I was like, oh man, the whole movie, they're just getting their butt kicked. And ultimately, in the end, the movie kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And I didn't know what a cliffhanger was when I was that age, or I didn't know this kind of idea of the whole story arc of the hero's journey, where the hero has to go through tough times in order to, grow as a character, grow as a story, and make his return in Return of the Jedi. I didn't understand those things. It wasn't until I, started growing up, started rewatching the movies over and over again, that Empire Strikes Back became my favorite and is my favorite to this day. When it comes to kind of rewatching movies for the show, this is one of them that I don't have to rewatch, because I've rewatched it dozens of times throughout my life. You know what I mean? I've seen it so many times.
He still watched it 3 times.
You still watched it 3 times, Dan. I mean, did you find anything new in terms of things you missed from before?
Yeah, I always find in the great movies, in my opinion, like a Casablanca, like a Godfather, like the great movies of all time, you always find new things in them to enjoy. Or things you missed in the past.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I mean, is it that you're finding something in the movies, or is it that you're changing and finding something new in the movies? Because I think that's what it is. I mean, I think, for sure, there's times where you find something out about the movie that that you might have missed before. But I think a lot of times it's that we change, and the perspective of something that happens in the movie now brings something else out of the movie.
And sometimes, the movie is commenting on things that are currently happening, like Dan said. People, you talk about infighting, Stephen. There's this infighting within Star Wars fandom where they don't think Star Wars is about political themes or political things, and I'm like, that's a whole galactic war. I mean, come on. Wars are always political. So like, since we live in very politically vitriolic times now, Star Wars makes more sense now than it did 50 years ago when it came out.
It did 1980 when we were coming off the 70s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Political, which was a politically charged time. We're living in a politically charged time now, and there's 2 distinct sides. We have the Republic and the Empire back then in Star Wars. I mean, and now we have basically Republicans and Democrats. So basically. But no, I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the examples where things have changed. I've already said on here, I've had a love-hate relationship with my father. My father just passed. And I found I've had in my lifetime, I have gone around, I've get subconsciously looking for a father figure, whether it be a football coach, a basketball coach, or a boss, or a bartender for that matter. And these men have been that father figure to me, who has come into my life, who's taught me about life, rights and wrongs, and how to handle money, and a lot of different types of things like that. And the Yoda-Luke relationship, to me, was that mentorship of a father figure, in a way, teaching an adult man, which I am, when I started developing the relationship with these people. And I just saw one of the men the other night at a football game. He's a football coach currently. And he gave me $20 because I spent $10 on the ticket. He didn't want me to spend $10 on the ticket. He gave me $20 for gas and the ticket for the movie. And it's just, these men are constantly in my life, and they've always constantly been there for me. Whereas Yoda is that constant for Luke, in a way where it's first Obi-Wan, then it's Yoda twice in Empire and in Jedi. But then the more I watch it, the more I see the fact that Luke is trying to accomplish something with his life. He is trying to be driven to succeed in a specific thing. And this to be learning to be a Jedi, where I was learning to be a film critic, and I was veered off the path in getting in coaching and things like that. And I wanted to be a film critic. My writing craft, I'm still honing my writing as of this day, as every day goes beyond here. I'm still honing my writing as a film critic. So rewatching the scenes with Yoda and Luke, I'm seeing myself as a person who's still continuing to learn, who still continues to need mentorship. And as I've gotten older, the movie has still been a constant in my life. And these kinds of themes have been constant in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think that's what gets lost a lot of times with a franchise like this. And I think it kind of got lost I think it was maybe one of the big problems with the new trilogy. I mean, I think it started out pretty decent. I think Force Awakens okay. was okay, was solid, like it was a good start. But like it got lost. I mean, even though me and Andrew, I know are big defenders of The Last Jedi. I do think that there was something lost in the sense of like understanding that this franchise is more than just its window dressing. It's not just like Jedis and that political stuff, that thematic weight there is supposed to be in there, that lineage, that's why they wanted to bring back the original cast as much as they could, because there's something to keeping that together, that through line through this storyline that you need to have that lineage there. But also like but it seems like the new trilogy kind of got too caught up in like modern day, let's make people happy and let's have a female protagonist. I'm not saying that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately we were in a time where that was like so prevalent, like that we needed to have more female-led action heroes, and it was like, and then we had a black stormtrooper at the lead. I mean, it was like we were trying to hit all these boxes instead of telling a good story. We could have had that stuff.
You could have had both. I mean, you can do both.
Yeah, you can do both.
It would really all depend on how, in which the way you do it. And
but it was overstuffed. It was overstuffed at the beginning. Like they could have spread this out through 3 movies. And
there's a lot. I mean, you could do shows upon shows upon shows about the new Star Wars trilogy, about Star Wars today. Yeah. There's so much that they've done with it since. I mean, Disney and Lucasfilm has done with it since 2012 that it could go on forever.
Yeah.
But going back to kind of The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back, oddly enough, is very much kind of like that, like you're saying, and that's I think why fans tend to like it so much, is because it is rather different than the first film. I mean, just as a sequel, I think for me it does everything I like to look from a sequel, building on the first one, but not really rehashing the first movie, which a lot of sequels tend to do. They tend to just kind of make things bigger, louder, but tell the same story. Empire tells a radically different story than the first movie.
It does and it doesn't. It's like
it is still good versus evil, bad guys versus good guys, stuff like that. But like we were saying, a little bit earlier, the bad guys winning, the good guys getting beat up the whole time, being on the ropes the whole time, and the movie, just plot wise, is so much more expansive, I think, than the first movie.
It is, but if you really think about it, not a lot happens.
No, I say that it's expansive in the sense like you've got a storyline here, a storyline there. You've got like 3 different storylines going on. What's going on with the Empire? What's going on with Luke? What's going on with Han, Leia, and C-3PO and Chewie? And yet, like you're saying, Stephen, not a lot really happens.
The story doesn't really move much further ahead because, like, I mean, this is why it's a great trilogy, because it's really one big story in 3 movies that
plot. What's crazy? Plot wise, not a lot happens when you really break down Empire.
Yeah, because
it's the character stuff.
You go Hoth. Luke goes to Dagobah at the same time. They're at an asteroid, and it's like they stuck in an asteroid for the middle half of the movie, and then they finally make it to Cloud City. And that's I mean,
Luke goes from Hoth to Dagobah to Cloud City. Yeah, and then the Empire is kind of just chasing Han and Leia around.
Yeah.
That's kind of the movie.
It's the movie.
But like what I was saying is that like it's the character stuff that goes much further than the plot. Yeah. Luke is on his hero's journey. Han and Leia have a relationship thing going on. Darth Vader's dealing with like the Empire screwing up left and right, and he's got to like wrangle all that stuff in, and You get a lot of Darth Vader in this movie, more so than the first one. Of course, you get the Imperial March, which is now one of the most iconic music things you'll ever hear.
Well,
They play it in every sports stadium on the planet.
I think the Han and Leia theme is the more,
and the Han and Leia theme, which is
more beautiful.
People know these things so well, is when they hear them, they automatically know what to connect them to. They can see the scenes in the movies when they hear the John Williams score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the real power of Star Wars. Is on such a personal level for people.
Yeah, I mean, I think Empire's similar. It's similar to like how Rocky. Like Rocky, you didn't technically get all the greats like until the third Rocky movie where you finally got Eye of the Tiger song. Yeah, this one, I mean, like New Hope is still my favorite. I still love that one, but like really, you didn't get like the big things until Empire Strikes Back, when it really like they knew what they got, and then they would just killed it with the second one, and the music was even better. They more Darth Vader.
Yeah, and for big time Star Wars fans, they know the story of the making of these movies. They understand how Star Wars, the first film, was relatively an indie film that just happened to explode massively and be a humongous hit. There's been books, there's been documentaries, there's been endless amounts of stuff now for 50 years. We all know that. And we know by the time Empire came around, they had, more money, a better technology was developed by that point. Like you said, bigger budget, more to do. What is interesting is that the sequels to Star Wars, which are Empire and Return of the Jedi, which people tend to talk about a lot, were not directed by George Lucas. Yeah. Empire was directed by Irvin Kershner, written by Lee Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan. Of course, George Lucas was involved as well. But so you got a different director with a different flavor, different added stuff in there, and it all ended up working out very, very well, as we know.
Well, I mean, sometimes
sometimes that doesn't always work.
It doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
They tried to do that in the third trilogy, but
and it's like you can't remake movie magic all the time. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Sure.
When you switch up a director, switch up a writer, switch up a creative team within a franchise, sometimes it works. Like I think it worked with Hunger Games, where after we had Gary Ross who did the first movie, they switched it up to a director whose name I can't remember, who did all of them afterward.
Yeah,
and that's the one that became the most iconic one. Francis Lawrence, ironically so.
Damn, I pulled it.
And he's doing the new ones as well.
Yeah,
and so like sometimes it works for the better, sometimes it doesn't. And with Empire, it just has such an enduring quality because there's so much rich themes in there. Like I said, 3 storylines going on, all delving into different things. It's really it's kind of, not only is it like something that's embedded in my memory, but just like as a movie, it's so good.
Well, I think what's so good about it is it's almost Shakespearean. The whole story, you got a love story, you got a hero's journey, and you got in the middle of it, this villain kind of connects all 3 things together, because he affects the love story and he affects Luke's hero journey by blowing it up.
He's the reason Luke can feel that his friends are in peril, and that's why he goes to Cloud City, bringing them all back together. It's also that classic writing trope now of where you get the heroes all doing their different stuff, and they all end up coming back together. It happened in Lord of the Rings after Fellowship of the Ring that Tolkien wrote back in the 50s, and it's happened throughout all kinds of books and comic books and movies now, where a bunch of friends go on their own journey and meet up back in the end, and by the time they get back together, they're different than you remember them being, because they've all had new life experiences and all things like that. So yeah, it's such a good movie, and I love this movie.
Dan. So let me dig into you a little bit. So you already mentioned that, this has a specific connection with your father. You're thinking about, how I guess Darth Vader and you, being that your dad wasn't your favorite person. So other than that kind of deep personal connection, what about when it comes to film? Like, is there like anything like, obviously you were 6 when you saw it. So like, did this set you up on a journey of like wanting to get into like even more sci-fi that was coming out at the time?
Yeah. I didn't realize it as a 6-year-old, this and a few other movies that came out in 1980 and movies that came out before 1980, which I couldn't see then because I was too young, but I saw afterwards, would then set me on a journey of being such a cinephile. And I would just, these movies would just prove to be like the bedrock of my film going experience, my film going knowledge, my film going love. And it's and a lot I get made fun of. I get made fun of even by people on this panel right now that you're too serious. You take movies too serious. You're all about the serious movies. You don't like funny movies. You don't like slapstick. You don't like romance. You only
you don't like any of that stuff.
You know?
Dan, what you're saying is all true.
You're saying the truth.
But it's because of what developed.
Gotcha.
At that time in my life, what I developed by what I watched, gangster movies, westerns, like dark, like Empire Strikes Back. You know
so you're saying Empire Strikes Back does not have any slapstick in it? Because it does. There's tons of Chewie
C-3PO is a light. C-3PO and Chewbacca. That stuff's funny. I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong.
So how about you watch damn, fucking Stuck on You or something? You love that.
That's a reference.
I have a hard time finding movies funny. I've had a little bit of a tough life, and so it takes a lot for me to laugh, and it takes a lot for me to find something funny, and there was a little bit of slappy stuff going on with Chewie and
there's tons of. I mean, even the
first
movie.
Some of the lines by Han Solo are still so iconic to me.
I mean, even in this movie,
I love that. I love that.
Or Yoda, just
even Yoda. Get off! Mine.
Yeah. Don't never tell me the odds. Shut them up or shut them down.
Well, speaking of, I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about Han Solo and Chewbacca. I've had, like I said, I'm not going to get into this and get in a whole kind of
what's up?
Hey, what's up, Illuminated Pro? But I always thought of myself as a lovable rogue. I know it sounds cliche, right? It's you feel like you're a lovable rogue. But I really felt, I know we're friends and we've known each other technically for 10 years online and YouTube and so on. Steven and I met one time. One of these days, me and you are going to meet, Andrew. We're going to have a nice dinner. We'll sit down.
I'm in the middle. You guys just come to me. I'm in the middle.
Yeah, well, we could come to North Carolina, go to the sticks of North Carolina.
It's not that sticky over here. I'm telling you.
No, I'm joking.
There's some open fields.
I've asked people where Kernersville is. They say it's the sticks.
It's not.
I'm not telling you what people told me. I'm just saying what people said. I'm not saying it's a stick.
They don't know what the sticks are. I'll go. I'll take you to the sticks, and you'll be like,
but I want to talk
you'll think it Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I can tell you that area.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, we have the sticks in Florida, so
sure.
Trust me. I know everywhere's got some sticks. No, but I want to talk about the lovable rogue. I always consider myself the lovable rogue, where I'm kind of teetering on doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing, possibly. Whether I'm a good guy or if I'm a bad guy. All depends on what the scenario is that I'm involved in my life. And I don't consider myself a bad guy, but I'm just always in the middle. And I'm just like, oh God, what should I do here? And I had a dog for 14 years. My dog was Buddy. Died about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10, maybe 7 years ago. The greatest animal anybody could have, the most friendliest dog imaginable, never left my side, sat by me when I was home, never left, and I just love that relationship with Han and Chewie. Like he's he's choking Lando when Lando's saying, I'm trying to help you now. Yeah, but you didn't try to help us before. You got us in this predicament, Lando, the dog. And I love Chewie and I love Han and I love that relationship between those two. And I know it's reaching, but I really feel like I am a bit of a lovable rogue, where people that get to know me, they understand me and my personality, do like me. It's just the ones that don't take the time to get to know me and get to understand who I am and where I come from. They're the ones that kind of think I'm not a nice guy.
Well, you could say that for a lot of people. I think that's a thing that is a problem in general. People don't actually take the time with most people. Because a lot of people don't have time.
Well,
we don't have time. We don't have time to get to know everybody. So first impressions mean a lot. But
I was going to say, there's that whole thing where first impressions tend to people make decisions right away.
They do. That happens with a lot of people that ain't willing to be your friend. Not everybody's going to want to be your friend. And that's not anything to do with you. That has to do with we only have so much to give, because I only have a certain amount of friends in my circle as well, because like I don't have that much energy to give. I have my family and I have the few friends that I can give the rest of my energy.
Yeah, I think you realize that the older you get.
The older
you get, you realize that you have an internal energy bar as if you're living in a video game.
Yeah.
And you only have, you got to be able to realize who should get that energy from that energy bar on a daily basis.
And that's that's based on what you evaluate about your ties to these people. So how they react to issues or things that come up, like them are your real friends. But also like when you talk about like whether you feel you're between being a good person, bad person, like I think that as we get older as well, depending on who we interact with, kind of we learn about ourselves. So like you're gonna learn. I mean, I've learned at moments in my life that I'm not that great of a person. Like I that I need to work on something. That there's something there that I'm missing that I didn't see. Like so, I mean, a lot of that has to do with like my wife, like mostly. But also that can happen with friends too. You get into conversations. If they're your friends, they're honest with you, and then you've realized something like shit. I've been doing that and not realizing it, and not realizing it was bad. So. That's something that is everybody goes through that, Dan.
And it's very interesting that you use the comparison to the Han Solo character, because if anything, he goes from this roguish guy who doesn't give a damn about anybody but himself and his own endeavors in A New Hope, until he meets his friends. He meets Luke, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2. I mean, he reunites with Lando, and he gets involved with this rebellion, something that is larger than himself. And he goes on this character journey. I think that's why Han Solo tends to be everybody's favorite character. I don't know if that's too much to say.
I would say he's one of the more developed characters, because we can get into I want to get into a thing about Luke, because I think Luke is a complicated subject for me. Because we'll get into it in a second, but Han, I think, has the most, and this is why people want him, want fucking Harrison Ford to keep playing the character until
they want more Han Solo, which there is a lot of Han Solo stuff. We got the young Han Solo movie, plus he had his own comic book like miniseries. He's in all the books.
Did a bad job, by the way. I think Alden.
No, he did fine. He just didn't have a lot to work with because the script wasn't that great.
But we know the making of that movie was kind of a mess.
Yeah, but he has the most, because he not only does he has the most, probably the most interesting character to start with, but he also has the love story, and she's like giving him a hard time, and they're like perfect for each other. Even though
it's that classic. Love hate, well, not love hate, but antagonists to lovers story.
Well, I mean, and if anybody's a rogue, honestly, it's Leia, because Leia's supposed to be the princess and the proper, but she's the one that like is breaking out of that mold, really.
She's kinda, right away too.
Right so they're away. Both perfect for each other because they're both rebels.
Yeah, her intro in A New Hope is her basically insulting Grand Moff Tarkin, and not backing down from Vader and the Empire.
And she's not just staying on her planet, which she would have died if she'd have done that anyway. But she didn't just stay on her planet where she could have. She goes out into the war and actually tries to do things.
Oh, yeah. She's transporting the Death Star plans, which, as we've known now, is a gigantic thing that happened throughout for the rebellion. Yeah. So she was taking the most risk by doing what she was doing for the rebellion.
But I think yeah, Dan, I think I understand that. I get the that idea of trying to understand yourself throughout life, and you get that in this movie a little bit, I think, especially with Luke. But let's talk about Luke, because Luke, I'm complicated about Luke because I like the character, but I do think he's the most underwritten of all the characters, because I think they take the kind of safe hero's journey. And this is the thing that I talk about the most when we're defending Last Jedi, which I think Last Jedi actually made Luke interesting. But this is what
it gave him: conflict. It gave him
like an actual journey,
like an actual conflict character journey. something, to progress his character along, because by that point he was this, like you're saying, Stephen, kind of underwritten, idolized character. He is the hero.
He was,
the flawless hero.
He was just like the typical like dreamer. Like he was like, I want to go somewhere new, and then he stumbles into it because of his Uncle Ben, and he stumbles into a journey, and he doesn't really get training. He somehow survives it. Then he goes to meet this Yoda guy he never met, trains with him for like 2 weeks, and then he's like a fucking ready to fight
2 days.
Darth. Yeah, it was like 2 days, and he's like a Jedi. He's fighting Darth Vader, the fucking one of the best fucking Jedi Siths ever. Survives that.
Got his ass kicked though. Got his ass kicked.
He did get his ass kicked, but he somehow survives it. And obviously, he didn't really want to kill him, so that's why he survived it. But then,
he also wasn't ready, and Yoda told him he's not ready.
Well, no, of course, but Darth Vader didn't want to kill him, so that's why he survived. But then he gets to Return of the Jedi, and somehow he's like, fucking, like, look at me now. I'm in black. And like, who was training him then? Nobody. And he was like, then he becomes some master, all-time best Jedi. And I'm like, God, come on.
Yeah, but his experiences turned him into that. His experiences, his life experiences, going through what he went through with Vader on Bespin, on that Cloud City, was an experience that he had to go through to get his mind in the place where he needed to go. Half of Jedi have part of a dark side in them. Half of the Jedi, we've known that over the years, that some Jedi aren't just always this, hey, let's go have a birthday party and have fun and have kumbaya and singing. No, they're not all like that. They have a dark side in them, but they choose to be a good guy. And the Sith choose to embrace that dark side.
But I think, and that's what Last Jedi was trying to break up, was the idea that it's kind of stupid to assume that there's one, you can be one or the other, because really people are more complicated than that.
Ironically, that's kind of what contributed to the fall of the Jedi, was their hubris in this idea that they were on the right side, they were good,
beyond any kind of negativeness.
That blinded them to the evils of the world that ended up
because they're
slowly creeping, taking back over with
the Empire was organized. Does that ring a bell, boys and girls out there?
Yeah, no, I know. We know. I mean, there is a reflection of government and society we're seeing today, but
there's a lot of politics and government in Star Wars.
Exactly, and it's even more so in the prequels. So yeah, I mean, I like the character of Luke. I do, and Mark Hamill is great, and
of course.
I just think that he still is underwritten, but in Empire Strikes Back, it's his bright spot because he gets to have some great moments. He gets the best moments. He gets Yoda and he gets Darth Vader in this movie, and Ghost Ben Kenobi
comes and talks to him.
Yeah,
and you see the training and the progression of him as a Jedi, as a person. So he does have that little bit of an arc, but I understand what you're saying, Stephen. It is accelerated.
It's accelerated for sure.
What's interesting is that even in Return of the Jedi, when he shows up like as the Man in Black, basically, and he claims himself to be a Jedi Knight to Jabba the Hutt and everybody there, Yoda still pretty much tells him, "You're not there yet. You're not there. Really. You still have to. Your biggest test is confronting Darth Vader." Which of course he ends up doing it.
But also Yoda did say also, and
there's another.
Well, yeah, no, but what I was gonna say is like Yoda also would say something like this, like you're the reason you're not doing well. Like I think he says something to. I'm paraphrasing, but like when he's having trouble, lifting rocks or something, he was like, it's because you don't believe is why you can't do it. So he needs to believe that he is a Jedi to actually be good at being a Jedi. Well, so whether he's faking it or not, he's faking it until he makes it. So
it's the ship. It's the ship. Okay.
Yeah. Shows you by your size.
He walks off. Yoda lifts the ship. I can't believe you did that. That is why.
That's why you fail.
And I want to use that as a point in my life where, when you're in your early 20s, late teens, early 20s, you're looking for a direction in your life. You're looking for something. I did have a job. I had a job for 20 years from the time I was 18 to about 38, 40 in there somewhere. And, I didn't know how to do my job when I first started. I learned how to do that job. And as the years gone on, I become really good at that particular job and all the little subsidiary type of jobs that go along with that job. And I could probably say the same thing about you, Stephen. When you started your job, you probably didn't know the ins and outs of your job. It took you a while. Now you're the guy that knows all about your job, and everybody else goes to you, hey, you need to go train with this guy because he knows how to do his job, and so forth and whatnot, And so I look at the Luke journey, and I look at, that's me as a kid growing up, learning, having to learn something, and then having those mentors, as I said, as the years go by. And then I got to where I do know how to do those jobs, and I'm very, very good at those jobs 30 years later. You know what I mean? And I think that any young man could take this and use it as a motivational tool in something that could help them in their lives, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Star Wars has been massively impactful for people. People have Star Wars themed weddings and Star Wars themed funerals, Star Wars themed birthdays. People's whole lives can be revolved around Star Wars. There's Star Wars conventions. You know what I mean? It's massive.
And I think that the power of that journey in the first trilogy and it going the way it did is why people are so upset about what they did with Luke later. Though I still don't understand, because by the end of it, he comes back. Like, it's like he makes his way back to help. Maybe they don't like how he did it, but I think it just shows how badass he was. Fucking fighting with a force vision from a planet away. It's cool.
Oh, in the new trilogy, yeah. I don't know if we were still talking about Empire.
No. I'm just saying, like, people get so upset about what they did with him in that third trilogy because of how impactful his journey was in this trilogy, where he was the new hope. He was hopeful. He gave people hope. He was a bright spot in a dark story of war.
And that was kind of what he was a new hope in A New Hope. And
he paved the way, like you said. Like, I mean, not only did he have mentors that helped get him there, but like also he was essentially doing something nobody else had done, because he was becoming a Jedi at an age where nobody became a Jedi.
Yeah,
like his father was the only one that got into being a Jedi a little bit later, but Luke's like almost 20 years old. Like, he's like,
that's way. And
Yoda says that. Yoda says that Jedi. He's too old. Old.
Yeah. And what is interesting, I love how they kind of paid that back, and we saw that as much as people don't like the prequels do inform us a lot about the Jedi way and the Jedi culture and the Jedi training regimens and all of that stuff, where the Jedi basically go and scout kids when they're very, very young, take them from their families and bring them to Coruscant, and they're basically put in the program, if you will, the Jedi program, and they don't see their family again. They don't.
Does that remind you
all
of
that stuff?
Football, baseball, basketball,
indoctrination,
soccer, anything like that?
I mean, not as much in the States, but
very young age now, kids are getting involved.
They're getting involved, but it ain't like
this, club that.
Sure, but I was gonna say they do it overseas, like it's way worse. Like,
I mean, if we're talking about like
the Dominican Republic and stuff, you go over there, they got like facilities over there where they're like taking kids in like right.
Oh yeah, away. They start them off very, very young.
Yeah,
in the training programs and all kinds of stuff for various sports. I mean, I think the more one-to-one comparison, I think, is religion. People kind of view Jedis as religious monks and stuff like that, adhering to a dogma, being very dogmatic in terms of their teaching and their ways, and then ultimately, being too dogmatic to the point that it ended up being one of the causes of their self-destruction. And what is interesting is Luke comments on that in the new trilogy of like, the old the Jedi dogma wasn't the way to go, and I tried to do that again, and it blew up. It blew up again. You know what I mean? And there's this idea of like
you need to question.
The past
you need to be able to question things like that.
Right.
That things are not things. There is no one way.
Yeah, just because it's done one way doesn't mean it's the right way.
No one path. There's no one path, and so his story even speaks to that. The fact that he was he came into being Jedi so late is
Yeah,
against the old ways. Like,
yeah,
it's
to connect it back to Empire is that like the Jedi at that point had no choice but to throw the old ways away because they've been hunted down, exterminated, persecuted. I mean, all this kind of stuff. So they have to train Jedi when they can, regardless of age, regardless of setting, regardless of all this kind of stuff. You know, they can't go to a certain planet that has the certain right kyber crystals to make the right lightsabers for them. They
Yeah.
can't do that stuff anymore. They gotta basically make it up as they go along. And Empire is kind of like that. You know, the movie it's very guerrilla style type of journey that these characters are going on. This desperation that I feel throughout this movie every time I watch it. This desperation for survival, this desperation to learn how to be a Jedi. It's all in this movie. So there's so much going on in it.
Before we're getting close to the end, but we got to talk about like what's a favorite moment. What's the favorite moment, Dan? You get the first pick. You know?
Well, I have a lot of favorite moments, but I don't know if I would call it a favorite moment, but I wanted to talk about a time when I was a little kid. You know, I lived in Massachusetts, and you know we have snowstorms and stuff like that. And when you get a lot of snow, and Andrew knows all about this, we would get out in the yard and do snow forts and create different things and have battles and have this and that and the other. And I remember the Hoth stuff very vividly as a kid as being something that I got to go out and play with my brothers in the yard and do forts and do Star Wars or do whatever it was at the time. And, you know, and I don't have that as I grew up. You know, I didn't have that time with my brothers. We all, even though one of them lives 5 minutes from me, one lives like 45, half hour from me. And, you know, we don't have that brotherly bond as we had as a kid when we used to go out in the yard and play in the fort in the snow. We'd have snow banks and stuff. Yeah, the streets would be all muddy and the snow banks eventually would get all grimy and nasty. But when it's a fresh nor'easter and stuff, we'd have those snow banks. We could do Star Wars and Hoth. We'd be playing Star Wars in the snow banks. And I had those memories as a child. And I don't have those memories because I live in Florida now, and I've lived here for most of my life. And I always go back to the Hoth scenes and have reminisce about the times I used to spend with my brothers playing out in the yard in the snowbanks and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you could do Return of the Jedi though. You could do it in Florida. You know, you could do what's that planet that the fucking
it's the Forest
Moon
was
in Hawaii. Was filmed in Hawaii, Rogue One, but we got palm trees.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the planet they're on in Return of the Jedi?
It's the Forest Moon of Endor.
Yeah, Endor. Yeah. You could do Endor. Yeah, you could do Endor down there. You get you some bears down there and everything.
We have jungles. We have jungles.
Yeah,
there's animals. There's animals
for sure.
It's interesting that you bring that up because, like we said earlier, Stephen and Dan, like we were introduced to Star Wars as kids, and that was a bonding thing amongst us youths. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's because it's so popular. I mean,
that bond, I think, endures to this day for many, many people. I know it does for me when it comes to like my cousin and I bonded over Star Wars when we were very young, and we still send Star Wars related memes and posts on Instagram to each other to this day, you know, and things like that, you know, and we always talk about, hey, did you see the newest episode of whatever Star Wars thing that's out now? What did you think of it? What did you think of the new movie? I mean, we went and saw The Force Awakens together in IMAX. It's it was one of my kind of a big IMAX experience for me. And yeah, we always get together for holidays, talking about Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. So it's something that is so unique in pop culture because it's permeated throughout the generations, whether you were there when it came out like Dan was, or whether you watched it on a different format as Stephen and I did, or even the kids today who are watching it in a different way as well, or being exposed to it with different types of exposure. A lot of kids are probably not introduced to it with the original trilogy. Perhaps they saw the Clone Wars, perhaps they saw Rebels, perhaps they seen the Mandalorian and they see Grogu and they love Grogu, you know what I mean? And then they're exposed to Star Wars in that way. So Star Wars is so unique in that idea that it's cross-culture, cross-platform, and it's so massive and it keeps enduring throughout the generations. And I find that to be just utterly fascinating how you can have so many different people being exposed to it, yet we all come to Star Wars in our own way. It's utterly fascinating because not every franchise is like that. Some are, but not to this degree.
Well,
You know,
there's also a difference between a lot of franchises that come from that time that haven't lasted this long.
I'm gonna say, there's not a lot of '70s other than Star Trek,
Planet of the Apes,
Apes.
but that's so fragmented.
I'm trying, and then past that,
Halloween,
not a lot of
First
franchise.
Blood,
but they're
First
not.
Blood,
But they're not
Halloween.
fantasy franchises. They're kind of like you can get away
horror
with
horror and action.
Yeah, well, you can get away with them having shitty movies somewhere in there and just bring them back anyway. But Star Wars, if you have a shitty movie, it fucks it all up, and as you can see,
and it's not as. I mean, I mean, if you just look at the movie landscape, they just keep making the same. They just keep making movies from franchises from 40 to 50 years ago. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
We see it with Terminator. We see it with Mission Impossible. Just ended their franchise from 30 years ago. I mean, they're always trying to kind of revive these things, and they don't quite have the power that Star Wars does.
But I was gonna say is like when we were coming up, becoming fans of it, even for me and you, Andrew, we were coming up before the prequels even came out. So like,
yes,
they were popular, but they were also kind of like these like indie things in a way, because it was like there's 3 of them, and at the time when we saw them, they'd already been passed out for like a decade.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
Earlier,
like there was no more.
to 99, there were no movies.
Yeah, so it was like almost like it was like, well, that's something great of the past that we love and that we could geek out about. So it's almost like at the time it was like, yeah, people know what Star Wars is, but it's also kind of like something people that were like just really nerdy about it would like. But
also,
now it's so popular.
It wasn't cool. It was not cool to like this stuff.
Yeah.
Even growing up as a teenager in the 2000s when the prequels came out, 99, 02, and 05, I was in 02 and 05, I was in high school. And even then, like, only the kind of the outcasts, the nerdy kids were the ones who talked about it, who went and saw the movies and were into that stuff. The popular kids, oh, goodness, no. Goodness, no.
Yeah, it only blew up with the prequels, I think.
Yeah, and in the 90s, the only way we could watch this stuff was if it came out back in the theaters, which it did when the special editions came out. But before then, Laserdisc and VHS tapes, and that was kind of it. And if it played on TV, of course.
Sure.
I just want to, I wanted to say this earlier, but, the whole thing we're playing in the snow, we're playing Star Wars, and we're having a good time, me and my brothers. The whole time we're being overshadowed by a dark cloud in our lives. We as kids, we kind of knew what was going on in our lives. But we were kind of like, in a way, we were blocking it out because we're outside, we're playing in the snow, playing Star Wars, playing whatever it is in the snowbanks and having forts and stuff. But there was this dark cloud in our lives. And I feel like that is kind of followed me my entire life. That dark cloud has followed me personally my entire life. And I feel like this movie is one of the things that I really resonate with because of that dark cloud, that darkness, and the force, the dark side of the force. It didn't matter what it was. It just, something bad was always going to happen to me. Something bad was just over my shoulder. Whether it's I get a good job, I could lose my job. If I would just lose friends, get a friend, lose a friend. My mother died at a young age. You know what I mean? I would say the wrong thing and I would lose people in my life, or a job or something like that. And I feel like the dark side of the force is kind of like that representative of the dark shadow that has overshadowed me personally in my own personal life. And it's really something that I really have struggled with to get past and get over the darkness that has followed me in my life. And people like you guys and people that I care about, like you guys, have really helped me try to put the darkness and the dark cloud behind me, but it always creeps up on me. from time to time, various scenarios and things that happen in my life. And this film has so many themes about all kinds of different things, but there was so much about it that really resonate with me personally. And I think it's this darkness that is probably the one thing that in my life that I've really affected me in my life. And from the time I was a little kid to the time that I'm now as a full grown adult.
Well, I mean, I think the scene that can really represent what you're talking about is the scene where he's on Dagobah, where he goes
the cave scene.
The cave scene, and he goes. Now, obviously, the most obvious parallel to what he sees is that, well, the guy in the mask is his dad. It's his bloodline, but also with him being inside of it, it's also about the darkness within. Like, he's got this darkness within himself that he has to struggle with to get past, to get what he needs to do to save his friends, to be the person he needs to be. So sometimes you got to, figure out what that darkness is and deal with it. And, part of that darkness was him finding out his father was a psychopathic killer, that, he needed to know that to get past it. Yeah, Dan, I think this has been your most, might be the most, I think, deep down episode of talking about your past in in a movie that we've had so far. I think I think you might have had one or two other ones that were pretty good.
Yeah, Star Wars tends to bring that out in people. It's that personal connection.
There's a passion for what the story does for people, and I think I can tell with you, Dan, that it really hits the feels. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I'm assuming that on the philometer we're all at the obsessed level.
Not quite. I'm not obsessed with.
Quite there?
I'm not. See, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I like the idea of Star Wars a lot. I'm probably obsessed with it in general, but like, I can't these days. I have a hard time being obsessed with any Star Wars movie, let alone my favorite one, which is New Hope. I'm probably more obsessed with that one than I am this one, but like, yeah, I just like it. It's good stuff. Like, I don't think about Star Wars anymore like I used to. I used to be, as Dan said, we used to have long conversations about it. I used to be really in it. Like, I was in it because it was, at the time the new trilogy was coming out too. Like, I was like really like, I was really deep in it at that time. And I've always loved it, but that was at my peak. And then after that trilogy and what's gone on since, like, I've just lost my touch with it because it's not what it used to be. It's not the fault necessarily of the quality of the movies. It's more the toxicness of the conversation around it. People don't seem to know what they want, or I'm starting to understand that people don't exactly maybe understand the movies themselves at all. Like, what are you watching? Maybe I'm the crazy one, but I just think that it's become very toxic, and that's what I think has really hurt the franchise in general. Is just people can't have fun with this thing that they said that they loved. They're so precious about it that they've squeezed all the fun out of it. And so, at least for me.
So you're saying that kind of the modern tarnishing due to the fandom and all that stuff has kind of diminished your love for the older stuff, or no?
It doesn't make me not love the movies, but it's also just made me not have a fervor for it. Like, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know I know that objectively I love Empire Strikes Back a lot. It's a good movie. I don't like it as much as New Hope, but I like it a lot. And but like my, propensity to want to go back and rewatch it. Like, I don't think I've watched it since today. I haven't watched it in 4 or 5 years. Like, it's not one I think about going back. I don't think about going back to any Star Wars movie.
Oh.
To be honest, really, it's I've lost my igniter for this franchise. So I mean, I'm at good stuff. I'm below obsessed, but I still love these movies, and I love this one. But it's just I'm not obsessed with them anymore. I've lost my obsession for this franchise in general.
Gotcha.
So, but I would never tell nobody not to watch these movies. They're fun, and they're, as for all of us, it seems they were important in our journey to getting into like that realm of cinema, sci-fi, fantasy, It ignites your imagination. It really does. I think that's the biggest thing, is the imaginativeness of it. Not only our main characters, but all the dressing around it, like all the going into the cantinas and the like, seeing all these characters you've never heard of that they've would then later exploit later in stupid spin-off shows and things.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett. And just like, I'm surprised they haven't done a fucking show on the band, where their own tour or something like
Dan and the Modal Nodes.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't fucking made that fucking thing yet. But
well, that's a great thing about the bounty hunters too. I love the bounty hunters, and you look at those guys that, oh, I want to know more about the bounty hunters, but we really don't get to know about bounty hunters except for Boba Fett.
Guess where the funnest stuff for that stuff is? Online fan fiction. If you really want to have, just let that stuff be in people's imaginations. Don't go off and make some show. I know they got to make their money, and they think, oh, they're online talking about this shit, we should make something of it. Well, like, that's what keeps this thing alive, is the fans needing something to talk about. But if you make everything and put it all out there, you've lost all that gap of imagination that people can do.
I mean, and then that leads you down certain roads and avenues that are just so tedious, and there's no winning any type of whatever, like, what's canon versus not canon.
Exactly. And
what is Legends versus the new canon? Which one do you listen to? Which one do you don't? And it's like, I don't need to go down these roads specifically.
The more you explain, the more you have to, it more complicated it gets.
Like, and remember this week, this week, there was a story that came out, Steven Soderbergh and Adam Driver were going to do a Ben Solo.
I did see that.
And Disney like, no, why would he be alive?
That little story right there sparked so much internet conversation that everything just explodes back up again in terms of the infighting and everybody like saying, oh, it's a good idea. Oh, it's a bad idea. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And I'm like, and then they just start going at each other, and it just it just never ends. It never ends. And that's why people like Steven just get so fed up with it, because it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. You just get so tired of all the arguing, and nobody ends up winning because you're not going to convince one side over the other. We see that all the time on the internet.
I would consider myself open-minded, and this is one of them complicated things about myself that I've learned, is that sometimes I can be close-minded when I don't mean to be. But I would consider myself open-minded. But there's also, when you're having discussions, you do have to take a stand somewhere. Like, you can't not have an opinion, because then there is no discussion. If you don't take a side, there is no discussion. So like, when we talk about things like The Last Jedi, me and Andrew are pretty much on the same side of this, that we're for the fact that there was an opportunity to change things up here, just like Empire Strikes Back did. An opportunity to break the monotony of what we have already gotten for a whole franchise. And people just fucking hated it.
Well,
like, the large majority of people.
I know the guy that played the Stormtrooper. I know a guy that played the Stormtrooper. He had the script, and Rian Johnson threw the script that they were going to make out. Said, nope, this script is too dark. It was going to have a journey between Finn and Poe. Through that, I was like, a journey between Finn and Poe.
We obviously don't want to go down the rabbit hole, because this is supposed to be more about Empire Strikes Back than anything. But this ended up being more of a discussion about Star Wars in general. But it's okay. But I just want to me and Andrew would never admit that movie's perfect. Like, we've got our problem with it. But I think what we get defensive about when we talk about it is more the ideas that were in there, that were trying to be cultivated, that people get so upset about, like the things with Luke and the ideas of like that were through that journey there, that just annoy the fuck out of me, because people want so many new things for Star Wars, but then they come back to like, it's not like I need it to be more like the original trilogy. And I'm like, dude, so you just want the same fucking movie again? Like,
I know, there's so many avenues I can go.
And I'll tell you, I love Rey's story. I just didn't know.
But she's the most. But unfortunately,
I don't like what they did with Finn.
Well, Finn's the worst written character out of all of them.
Finn and Poe, they screwed them both up.
It's because there's too many characters.
They also didn't know what to do with them, and they didn't know, so they ended up kind of really didn't do much with them.
And then what's the Maria Tran?
Why?
Kelly Marie Tran.
Then her character there was too many pieces. They should have had Rey. They should have had Finn, and then they could have just had Ben Solo, and that should have been it.
Well,
Like,
I mean, I don't want to. We could open this up forever, but they tried to do what they did in Empire, which is let all these characters have their own character journey, let them
Sure.
go off and do their own thing, and therefore let them develop. Let them develop on their own. Then they come back together again, which they did in Last Jedi. If they come back together on that salt planet.
I will defend it to the end of the fucking world. The scene on the ship with Ben Solo fighting and Rey fighting, probably the best moment in the whole trilogy is that scene where they fight on that ship.
I love the idea that the movie does set up a lot of things, but I personally love the idea, and I know a lot of people didn't like it at the time, that Rey didn't have a connection to anybody else
That's what it was supposed to be
in the lineage of it all.
Yeah.
Because the heart of Star Wars, and maybe this is a good place to end it, is that it's a journey that all of us go on, and none of us are special, but we can be Jedi. We can be more than ourselves.
I mean, that's what he set up.
Great because of our own abilities within us. We don't need to be related to some type of Jedi lineage, a Skywalker, a Kenobi, a Palpatine. We're all, we're all going on our own hero's journey.
Exactly.
And because we have the ability within us, and that's like the heart of Star Wars. And the fact that Star Wars fans didn't like that blew my mind.
and the thing is JJ kind of set that up, and then Rian Johnson actually took the ball and ran with that, and then JJ came back and said, fuck it. And then he's like, I need there to be a connection here for the big baddie to be Palpatine.
You didn't need that connection for her character to be great. You don't need that connection for the character to be great. You did, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to fit things in a box. Stop me, Steven. Stop me.
Let's stop. Empire Strikes Back.
If
you, for some reason, have never seen any of these movies, please come back, and you should watch New Hope first, and then watch Empire Strikes Back, of course. One of the great sequels, probably one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Yeah, when people say, I mean, there's an endless debate about, are there sequels better than the original? People always bring up Empire Strikes Back. They bring up Godfather Part 2. They bring up various other movies. Aliens.
2.
Yeah, for sure.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Top 5 right there.
Yeah. But that's it. That's it, guys. You got to. I'm guessing Andrew's more on the obsessed side. I'm
obsessed, clearly.
And so yeah, I mean, it's we don't have to explain it yet. But real quick, so that's Dan's pick. So next time it's my pick. And I'm going with a heavy one for me. This one's actually a pretty heavy one for me, and I think we'll all cry on this one. I don't know, but this is actually a later one in my life that hit me in my 20s because, I was going through a time that was pretty lonesome. And so this movie kind of hit me. Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Good one.
Is one from not that long ago that I want us to talk about. So we'll hit that on the next one. But, oh man, as Yoda said, when it comes to your film journey, as Yoda said, don't it's not do not, it's just there's no try, just do or do not. I mean, like, you should go watch movies, go watch Empire Strikes Back. There is no try. Okay, just go do that. So that's it, guys. Peace with your friends. Good night.